It was supposed to be just a short walk to the greenhouse in the back, where Donna Clarice used to leave her flower tea to dry in the sun. Madame Violette, my mother, had sent me in a hurry. "Get the tea and come back soon, Arabella," she said. It was late afternoon, the heat still lingering within the mansion's walls, and I, wrapped in a light nightgown and rustic slippers, had no idea that fate awaited me with a hint of danger. I crossed the stone corridor without any vanity, me hair tied in a loose bun, my face clean, my simple, worn linen dress. No brooches, not even the slightest mirror, just a trip to the back and back. But of course, just on that day when I allowed myself to be just practical, the universe decided to play a trick on me. As I turned into the east wing, I felt the package slip. A sharp thud, glass shattered on the floor, scattering sweet aroma and translucent pieces of broken petals. I knelt quickly, muttering a muffled curse as I tried to salvage what I could. It was then that I heard the footsteps, slow, determined. "Let me help you," said a deep, almost lazy male voice. I looked up. He was already there, kneeling beside me. A jacket hung loosely from his shoulders, barely buttoned, the shirt inside still wrinkled as if he'd just woken up. His dark brown hair was messy, his eyes a deep amber. He was the new manager of the neighboring property. I knew that, but I'd never seen him up close. "Thank you," I murmured, trying to grab an intact petal, but he beat me to it. Our fingers brushed, quickly, almost nothing, but still, something remained. "Do you still live here?" he asked, his voice too measured for someone who clearly already knew the answer. "Forever," I replied, not meeting his eyes. "And you're new around these parts." He gave a half smile, the kind of smile that seems to hold a joke all its own. "Madame Clarice asked me to supervise the estate's stables. I didn't have much choice," I said lightly, gathering the petals one by one, carefully placing them on the cloth I held. "But I must confess, living here has its distractions." I pretended not to understand. I just smiled awkwardly, but my skin burned, as if that innocent exchange had been too intimate. When we'd gathered everything, he took the cloth from my hands. Before I could thank him, he said, "May I walk you back? Just to make sure you arrived safely." The way he said it wasn't polite. It was suggestive, as if he were telling me with his eyes that this walk could be longer, if I wanted. And, to my surprise, I didn't refuse. I just nodded. We walked in silence through the stone and tapestry corridors, a thick, almost solid silence, the kind you hear with your skin. When I reached the main hall, I stopped in front of the door to my mother's studio. I picked up the key with trembling fingers. He stood beside me, too close. When I reached for the package, he held it tightly for a second before letting go. Our eyes met. His didn't say, "Excuse me," they said, "I see you." "I appreciate your kindness. I really do," I murmured. "Whenever you need me," he replied with a half smile. "Even if it's just a little, or nothing at all." He stood there for 3 long seconds, long enough for me to hold my breath. Then he turned, walking slowly, as if purposefully leaving something behind. I closed the door. I pressed my body against it. My knees were weak, my chest heaved. The little flower between my legs throbbed, as if touched even without touch. It was just his scent. His manner, everything he didn't say. I lay on the living room couch with the cloth on my lap. I knew I shouldn't think about him, but his face came back every time I blinked. That man. In the mansion where I grew up, in the hallway where I ran with a ribbon in my hair, now he looked at me as a woman. And for the first time, I didn't know if I wanted to run away. It was after 11 when I heard 3 knocks. I was alone, with a glass of raspberry wine and a book open on my lap. The sound made me jump. Who would come at this hour? I peeked through the crack. It was him. Her hair was still damp, her jacket gone, just a black shirt clinging to her chest and loose pants. A sheen of sweat on her neck. Her eyes were darker than before. "I forgot something here," she said hoarsely. She lifted the cloth where the dried petals remained. It was on the floor. I only noticed now. I took it carefully, our fingers touching again. He didn't pull away. He stayed a second longer. When our eyes met, the hallway lost its air. "Would you like to come in for a moment? Just so as not to raise a red flag for the neighborhood." I don't know why I invited him, but he accepted without saying anything. I closed the door slowly. He entered with silent steps. We stood face to face in the dim light of the room. I, in my nightgown, my body exposed under the lamplight. He with his sharp gaze. "It's late," I murmured. "I know," I said, walking to the window. "And you couldn't sleep?" Something was bothering me. I leaned against the wall, my heart beat in time with the shiver rising inside me. He turned his face. "Have you always been like this?" he asked, as if talking about the weather. "Distracted and dangerous?" I was speechless. My body answered for me. The little flower tightened beneath the thin fabric. My breath hitched. "I'm not dangerous." "Yes, you are, but you fake it well." He moved closer, half a hand's breadth away. The heat of his body reached me before his touch. He reached out, touching my hair. "I've always wanted to know what your texture was like," he whispered. "Now I want to know what it's like. The rest." I closed my eyes, just for a moment. When I opened them, he was still there, and I almost went. But a creaking sound from the floor upstairs shattered the atmosphere. A reminder, the danger. I moved away, half a step. He understood. "Good night, Arabella." "Good night." He opened the door slowly. Before leaving, he glanced over his shoulder. "If you forget anything, call me." The door closed, but he stayed. He stayed in the scent, in the heat, in the latent desire in my belly. And when I lay down on the couch again, I had to face the truth. I wish he had stayed. Hey, you there listening to my story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are lots of spicy and provocative stories here, the kind that make your little flower throb, if you know what I mean. Until the next chapter. The body was there, but the soul wandered. Every room in the house seemed permeated by his presence. From the woody scent that escaped his dark shirt, from the heat that lingered in the words whispered near my neck, from his gaze that undressed me without ever touching. It was as if the room had become a shrine of desire. I changed my clothes twice before dinner. I looked in the mirror 3 times. I mentally cursed myself for letting him occupy my thoughts so strongly. But all I had to do was remember the way he'd said, "Call me anything," and my stomach would contract again in small, involuntary spasms. Night fell heavily. No music on the gramophone, no linden blossom tea, no Austen reading, nothing distracted me. The mansion seemed larger, emptier, until I heard it. 3 knocks on the front door. My heart stopped. It took me a while to move my feet. I walked slowly to the entrance. I almost didn't want to look through the crack in the carved wood, but I did. And yes, it was him. This time, no excuses in hand. No books, no greenhouse, not the slightest attempt at disguise. Just him, barefoot, in loose pants and a half-open shirt. As if he'd left his own room just to come to me. I opened the door, silently. "Did you forget something?" I murmured, my voice lower than I would have liked. "We pretended we forgot, but I came to get it now." The answer didn't come from his mouth. It came from his eyes. It came from his body as he entered, crossing the threshold as if he'd known the way for ages. I closed the door behind him without thinking. He walked slowly, like a cat on the prowl. When he stopped in front of me, The world seemed to shrink. "I shouldn't be here," he said hoarsely. "I know," I replied and shivered. "But I am," he finished. "I know." Nothing else was said. His forehead touched mine. The brush of his lips was subtle, provocative. Breaths mingled. My heart beat like parade drums. My little flower. This one seemed to breathe instead of lungs. He pulled me by the waist, as if bridging two different worlds. The kiss wasn't an invitation. It was an invasion. Urgent, warm, firm. His lips knew the way, and his hands knew the rest. My body reacted as if it had been waiting for years. My breasts hardened against my light nightgown. My hips sought instinct. His hands roamed as if reading a map made of flesh and secrets. When he pressed me against the hallway wall and his hands moved down my thighs, I arched, gasping. "I dreamed about this," he whispered against my skin, already damp with heat. I couldn't respond. I just moaned. A restrained sound, yet charged with everything. His hands moved up my blouse. His fingers traced my body like someone writing verse. He touched the headlights with a mixture of delicacy and possession. I closed my eyes. My head fell back, surrendered. "You're hotter than I imagined," he said, his lips brushing my shoulder. I wasn't myself anymore. I was a little flower. I was desire. It was the raw instinct to open my legs and let him discover everything he'd provoked. But he was in no hurry. He kissed my face, my chin, my neck. He moved down to my belly with the devotion of a starving man. He knelt as if in worship. His hands gripped my waist like anchor ropes. His breath burned against the fabric of my nightgown. When he pressed his mouth against me, even through my clothes, my entire body trembled. My belly throbbed, alive, as if it had been waiting for him forever. He devoured me with his eyes, with his fingers, with his mouth. The back of my neck pressed against the wall. Moans trapped between my teeth. My hands gripped his hair as if it were salvation. It was wrong. It was forbidden. It was inevitable. And I didn't want to stop. I felt the heat rise from my navel to my throat. My legs weakened. The explosion came silently. A climax without a scream, but one that made the world collapse inside me. My body emptied in waves, with his mouth still there, pressed, hot. When I opened my eyes, he was still on his knees, licking his lips with relish. He was staring at me with a look that said, "You'll never forget this." And it was true. He now lived in my size. He was the name I couldn't say, the body my skin begged to remember. The next morning, the sun rose the same, but nothing was the same. My body ached as if I'd danced all night. My chest tightened with the guilt of forbidden things. Maybe I'd crossed a line, or several. But my little flower still smiled, silently, satisfied. "Hey, you there who's following all this, tell me, what would you do in my place? Leave your comment below and tell me what you thought of this chapter. It's getting hot, isn't it? Get ready, there's more." I tried to maintain my routine. I tried to go down to morning tea as if Edmund hadn't devoured me with his eyes and mouth the night before. As if I hadn't emptied myself of modesty and filled myself with him right there against the wall of the service corridor in the east wing of the estate. But everything had changed. Even the mirrors in the mansion seemed to regard me with judgment. I dressed in a more fitted dress, long sleeves, a pearl necklace, and my hair tightly tied back as if the appearance of a lady could stifle the female instinct that still burned within. I crossed the inner garden with my head bowed. I greeted the cook with a forced smile, hoping she wouldn't smell his perfume still clinging to my skin. In the greenhouse, where he usually tended the plants, there was no sign, no sound on the gravel path, no creak of the glass door. For a moment, I thought it had all been a figment of my needy mind. But that afternoon, as I was hanging sheets on the clothesline out back, he appeared. He was walking across the upper terrace in a white linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, a book in his hand, his hair tousled by the wind. He stopped. He looked at me and smiled slightly. I didn't say a word, but that smile penetrated the fabric of my dress and touched my bare skin. That night, I locked myself in early. A long bath in the porcelain tub with the candles lit, the scent of lavender. Every drop reminded me of his touch. I tried to push the memory away, but my body reacted on its own. The little flower contracted with each breath of memory. 2 days later, a note hidden in my bedside novel. Need help with the firewood today? The boldness disguised as kindness, the provocative humor, the certainty that he knew what he was doing to me. I didn't answer. But that night, I left the bedroom window half open, as if forgetting, on purpose. He didn't come, but I dreamed. I woke with damp sheets, my body in turmoil. On Sunday, Lady Margaret Edmund's wife called me to tea with her and their young son. I sat with my heart pounding. She spoke sweetly, but every sentence about her husband was a stab, soaked in venom. He's been absent. He sleeps on the sofa in the drawing room sometimes. I don't know what's wrong with Edmund lately. My little flower throbbed, mocking the guilt I was trying to keep under control. I left early, and there, in the hallway that separated the servants' wing from the library, there he was, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, his gaze fixed on me. "Was the tea good?" he asked with a wry smile. "Delicious," I replied, trying to walk right past. But he moved and blocked my path with his body. He didn't touch me, but he was close, close enough for me to feel the heat of his skin. "You avoid me, but your skin crawls when I get close," he murmured. "And your wife?" I replied, a whisper of a voice. "She sleeps more peacefully when we argue," he replied. I just breathe better when I see you." Those words broke me. My back pressed against the cold stone wall, my body wanting to give in, but not there. Not then. My voice trembled. "Go away. Do you want me to go?" Silence. He moved closer. Close. His breath hot on my mouth. "You want me, Rosalind. You just don't know what to do with it." "And you?" "I already did, and I would do it again." His eyes burned. But he stepped back. He went into the library and closed the door without another word. I stood there, trembling. I went back to my room, blew out the candles and cried, not only because it was wrong, but because I was too strong to resist. In the days that followed, we pretended. We didn't exchange letters. We didn't make plans, but we knew. It was in the lingering glances in the hallways, in the way he adjusted his vest as he passed me, in the way I lingered on the stairs. And then, when the house was asleep, when silence fell, he would knock just once. Short, firm, and I would open the door. We never spoke of right or wrong again. We just felt each other. Our encounters sometimes lasted minutes. Other times, he fell asleep in my lap, his body warm against mine. But the world began to weigh heavy. Lady Margaret smiled, but her eyes seemed to pierce me. Did she know? Had he told me too much? The guilt wasn't due to the act, but to the feeling. One day, on a rainy night, he appeared, drenched, eyes red, clothes stuck to his body. "She knows," he said, taking off his wet shirt and throwing it on the floor. "How?" She overheard a conversation, put the pieces together. Today she asked me to my face. "And what did you say?" I denied it, but she doesn't believe me. She'll investigate. The world stopped. I lay still on the sofa, my heart crumbling. So this is the end? Maybe it has to be for you, he said, kneeling in front of me. He kissed my forehead, my eyes, and finally, my mouth. That night was the last. No rush, just surrender, just a long hug and aching silence. When he left his scent on the pillow and an emptiness inside me that no letter could fill. He disappeared. No notes, no footsteps in the hallway. Months later, I found a letter left under the cushion of the greenhouse chair. Seeing you was a coincidence, touching was an impulse, repeating was desire, feeling was stupidity, but I don't regret it. You were the only real thing. If I don't knock anymore, it's because I know that if I knock, you'll open, and if you open, neither of us will come back. Signed, E. I folded the letter with trembling hands. I tucked it between the pages of my diary. Today, he still lives in the same mansion. He still pretends to greet me, and I still hear footsteps at night, and, for a second, I believe it's him. It's not. But, inside me, my little flower still beats, my heart still calls out to him, and my body still remembers. He shouldn't have come, but I never wanted him to leave. If you've made it this far, comment where you're watching from. It was a pleasure sharing this story with you. If you liked it, let me know in the comments. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There are lots of hot, forbidden, and delicious stories waiting for you. Until the next video, my love.